I'm Lorelei, registered dietitian nutritionist. Welcome to my kitchen.
Hello and welcome to Let's Make a Meal, the game show where we challenge contestants to put together an entire meal from whatever they found in their pantry. Our first contestant today, Lorelei, who says she's a registered dietitian.
I am a registered dietitian.
Great!
What's with the hat?
All game show hosts should wear hats. I'm your game show host today, Lorelei. What are you making with what you see in front of you?
I'm going to make a meal.
That's the name of the show. For our first entry, 5 points if you can name all the ingredients you're going to use in this dish.
I've got green beans.
Uh-huh.
Mushrooms.
Point number 2.
Onion.
Pre-diced.
Garlic.
Minced.
I am actually going to be using rolled oats today.
So we're having oatmeal for dinner.
Well, sort of. I have some cashews that I have soaked.
Wet nuts.
And then a bunch of additional spices and additives that we are going to throw together in a sauce. What do you say?
Ah, getting saucy and let's make a meal.
Like my main ingredient has been stolen.
Because it is the secret special ingredient that you don't know about that is going to be thrown at you at the last minute.
No way!
It is wild rice. So let me tell you a secret fact about wild rice. It is not actually a rice. It's actually an alien symbiont that was brought to us many years ago by our alien overlords.
The first half of that sentence was correct. It is not actually a rice. The rest of it was 100% nonsense.
Minus 5 points.
Wild rice is a grass. But it still counts as a whole grain, and it is full of fiber. It has got a lot of nutrients in it as well, and it is considered to be more nutrient dense than even brown rice.
So, walk us through this, Lorelei. What's the first step?
Well, the first step is we're actually gonna make kind of a cashew sauce cream. I made something similar a few weeks ago because I found a can of cream of mushroom soup in my cupboard that had been there for, I don't know, years, and I wanted to use it up. And this turned out really well. But cream of mushroom soup gone. I rarely buy cream of mushroom soup.
Then what was it doing in the pantry?
I don't
Dun,
know.
dun, dun.
You must have bought it because I would never buy cream of mushroom soup.
Game show host immunity.
Well, I'm gonna use mushrooms because I liked that flavor in there, but I'm gonna make a little kind of a cashew cream, which is actually vegan. So it's not cream actually, but it will be creamy.
So it's not truth in advertising. Should be creamy cashew sauce, not cream of cashews.
I didn't say cream of cashews.
Busted! This is the first commercial break!
What are we advertising? We have no sponsors. If you would like to sponsor an episode of Nutrition with Lorelei, please let me know in the comments below. Alright.
That could have been your space.
So we're going to start with the cashew cream sauce, which is sort of a recipe, but as I do with most of my recipes, it is adapted based on what I have in my kitchen. Which is something I actually encourage you to do as well.
Hence, let's make a meal.
Exactly. So although I'm using green beans because I have them and they're a little past their prime and need to get used up, if you don't have green beans, use what you've got.
As long as it's green.
No, it doesn't even need to be green.
But it probably should.
You could use carrots.
Oh.
We're gonna make a little bit of a cashew cream. Do you want to help me?
No. That would ruin my impartiality as a host.
Oh, I see.
I have a host code.
Okay.
Goes along with the hat.
That hat. I've got these cashews, about a half a cup that have been soaking for, I don't know.
Boom! You take your wet nuts, and then?
And then I'm gonna put them in this blender cup because I'm gonna just use my immersion blender to blend things up. I strained the cashews. We're gonna add water to this anyway, but I wanna get the soaking water out just because sometimes it's a little nicer that way, to do it that way. I'm gonna add about a cup of water. The name of the game when you're dealing with ingredients that are whole food ingredients that are healthy and nutritious is you just need to make them flavorful. So don't hold back on flavors. I've got a little bit of garlic powder, not very much, this is what I have. You could use onion powder if you like to, but I'm just gonna throw that in there. The dish itself is also gonna have some fresh garlic, but this isn't gonna hurt. I'm gonna use some dill, about half a teaspoon, which is a decent amount. I encourage you to stock up on spices. They can be expensive if you buy them in a fancy store in fancy jars, but if you buy them in bulk, or I've even seen them at the Dollar Tree, they can be really affordable. I'm gonna use some salt, about a half a teaspoon. Nutritional yeast. When you're doing vegan, savory dishes, nutritional yeast can really be a helpful ingredient to have around. So I'm gonna use about a tablespoon. I'm also gonna use about a tablespoon of miso paste. Same deal, it's a really nice, savory, it gives a little bit of an umami flavor. I'm gonna do about a tablespoon here. That's probably a hefty tablespoon. A little bit of pepper and some cider vinegar. I'm probably gonna add about a tablespoon. I think the recipe that I originally looked at called for lemon juice, but I don't have lemon juice. Cider vinegar is gonna perform the same function. It is adding some acidity. Because it's gonna cook down, you're not gonna really be able to taste the difference between lemon juice versus cider vinegar, but it is gonna be a little bright zinginess. And then I'm just gonna blend this all with my immersion blender. Okay, before I go too much further, I'm gonna taste this because I wanna know that I'm getting flavors that I like. I can add something now, can't take anything away, but I can adjust now. Yeah, I think the balance of salty and savory, I can taste the dill in there. I think it's pretty good. Now we kind of just put it all together, so we're gonna move to the stove and do that. I am at my stove. Turning it on. I'm gonna just start with a little bit of oil. I'm gonna use coconut oil today. Coconut oil is a saturated fat. There's debate over whether or not coconut oil is a healthy oil. It is a medium chain saturated fat as opposed to most of the saturated fats that come from animal products, which are long chain. I use a little bit of it every once in a while. I don't have a lot of other sources of saturated fat in my diet because I am vegetarian, so I don't think it's a problem. But it is something that you can make an informed decision about if you would like to look into it further. So I've got onion, and I'm gonna start with this and let this saute down until it gets nice and soft and translucent. Once those onions are kind of soft and shiny, I'm gonna throw in the garlic. And I just crushed a couple cloves, and I like to give the garlic a minute. Once you smell it, usually it means that it'll come into contact with the oil, which will really infuse the dish. Can smell the garlic. Then I'm gonna add my other vegetables. As I said, I'm using green beans and mushrooms. This is a combination of cremini mushrooms and shiitakes, which are more pricey, but they are sometimes worth it. At this point, I will probably add a dash of salt as well. Adding salt to vegetables when you're sauteing them sometimes helps to bring the moisture out of the vegetables so that they cook a little better. And we don't have to cook these vegetables to doneness right now because they are also going to simmer along with the grains. But I want to just get them started, give them a little bit of chance to brown or sear. Now, before I add the liquid, I'm actually going to add the grains. So we have wild rice. Wild rice, I think, is named wild rice just because it cooks like rice. So 1 part grain to 2 parts water, and you can cook it in about an hour or about 40 minutes or so. Wild rice has a really strong flavor, so sometimes even if I am using it just in a way that I would use rice, I'll do about half wild rice to half brown rice. It kind of balances out the flavor. So I'm gonna do a half a cup of wild rice. And as I said, a half a cup of rolled oats. And yes, we do keep our oats in an old coffee jar. So this is not coffee, it is oats. The oats are going to add a lot of creaminess. Wild rice, chewy. rolled oats. Creamy. It's gonna have kind of a chewy but still creamy risotto texture to it. And I'm putting these in before the liquid just to try to get them a little toasted perhaps before we start to cook them for reals. If there were any additional dried herbs you wanted to add to this dish, you could crush them and put them in there now as well. Again, just to kind of bring out that flavor with the heat of the pan before you add the liquid. I know this seems like a weird combination, but that's why I encourage creativity in the kitchen. You never know how things are gonna come together, and I think this is gonna be good. I also like making meals. They're a little bit of an experiment. I think that's fun. I think it also prevents getting bored with your meals. It offers you a chance to work with ingredients you have and you like, so it can save money and prevent food waste. We added 1 cup of grain, so half a cup wild rice, half a cup of rolled oats, so we want to add 2 cups of liquid. I made this little cashew cream, but we will add additional water if we need to come to 2 cups. And maybe even a little bit more because we would like this to be pretty soft and creamy. I'm gonna throw in some extra water. And then I haven't spent a lot of my life making risotto, but I do think it's one of these dishes that you want to kind of adjust the liquid as you go. That's kind of true with oatmeal too. As you cook it, as you see that the grain takes up the liquid, you can always add more. I also will probably add some wine later on in the cooking, so that will be a little bit of liquid in addition. We're just gonna now let it simmer for a while. I'm gonna put the lid on just so that it really can cook, but I am gonna check back and stir it every once in a while and make sure I've got the right amount of liquid there. This is really a 1-pot meal, so once you kind of got it going and you've got all of the ingredients in there, you just let it do its thing, and when it's ready to eat, it's just gonna be ready to eat. Wine time.
Yay.
Optional, but it will add a nice additional flavor to make things a bit more complex. Taste as you go. Not done yet, but I think the flavors are good.
And we're back from our commercial break. Thank you, sponsors. This is Joe, your host of Let's Make a Meal.
Hey, I gotta get in here because the food is done.
And here is our eager contestant, eager to show us how the meal turned out.
I think it turned out well, Joe. I have created, as we kind of knew going into it, a wild rice risotto, which is sort of a misnomer because, of course, risotto contains rice and this contains no rice.
It's grass risotto.
Yes.
Based on what was in the pantry and our mystery ingredient.
And oats, yes.
Which some contestants evidently knew about beforehand.
I get the inside scoop.
Mm-hmm. So let's scoop that out and have a taste.
Okay. I did add a little more water as it cooked. It's very creamy. This is gonna be probably, I would say, 3 servings. It seems like a lot of food, but it is probably no more than 3 servings, unless you're doing side dish servings, but we're doing full meal servings.
Are you ready then?
Okay, it's hot.
Ready?
Blow on it. Oh, I gotta taste it too?
Set. Taste! This is why I have a hat.
Oh, I see. It all becomes clear.
It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd echo that. It's got a creamy green beanie kind of taste to it, but the mushrooms really help a lot. Shiitakes are awesome.
Yeah.
An inspired choice there based on what was in the pantry.
And the wild rice adds a little chew to it, so it's a little more interesting than just like something that's all one texture.
So, thank you for playing, Lorelei, and let's make a meal.
Did I make a meal? Did I win?
You made a meal, and now we're moving on to our sequel game show, Let's Steal a Meal.
Oh, no, this is mine! You may be wondering if this is actually a meal where the protein is. Although there's no obvious source of protein in this dish, every item in this dish does contain some protein. There is protein in mushrooms, there is protein in green beans, there is protein in oats. Wild rice actually has a high amount of protein for a grain. So in a fourth a cup of dry wild rice, there are 5 grams of protein. So we used a half a cup of wild rice, so this whole dish gets 10 grams of protein just from the wild rice. Cashews also have protein in them. So just because you don't see a big glob of protein in your dish does not mean that you aren't getting protein. Yeah, it's nice and savory. I will try to put the recipe for this in the description for this video, but I encourage you to take it with a grain of salt, literally. Have fun with it. Treat everything as a template and not a hard and fast set of rules.
Go for commercial break number 2.
Oh no.
This could be your time. Go sponsor us, please. Give us money and
Wow.
things will put you on the YouTube TV.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And you know that if you win the prize, you have to give us money.
No, I thought it was just providing a meal.
Yes, but also you could pay us.
I have no money to pay.
Then we'll take the meal.
I think I was misled into this game.